please feel free to record. Right.
Well, thanks for that. We'll leave now. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, guys, now I recognize that we've all encountered the limitations of Zoom. It's not nearly as good as being in the room together. But just by way of sort of helping me facilitate this, there are two things I'd ask. So first of all is I'm absolutely open to iterative discussion, right? So if you have some comment or whatever, however you want to catch my attention, but feel free to offer it, to join in the conversation. I don't want to just be, an endless monologue. If you have something to say, I welcome it. The second thing is your engagement now, and I know many are offline, and if you can join me by video, if that's possible, I would gratefully invite that. But for those who are on video, can you be, interactive? So if I kind of ask a question, thumbs up is good. If you're really happy to, thumbs up. If it's a disaster, give me the thumbs down, right? So, and that way we can I can pretend that we're sort of more engaged than we are, right? So, Big Talk. Has anyone heard of Big Talk? Any thumbs up? Oh, hang on. Yeah. Any thumbs up from that? Yeah, cool. Oh, good. Thank you. The idea of Big Talk was come up. It was a beautiful concept that was developed by a young lady, and she did a TED Talk, and it kind of went viral. And I love it because what we can do is hang some understanding or some next level communication off the concept. So what's involved is today, Big Talk, small talk. We all kind of get small talk, don't we? Any thoughts about what your idea of small talk is?
The weather, occupation.
Yeah. The weather always comes up, doesn't it? It's the classic small talk, right? And one thing, sorry, Warren, cheers.
Definitely in Melbourne.
Yeah. Well, it gives you 4 different subjects a day to talk about, right? Which is cool, right? But there's also this element of the idea of small talk. We now engage in certain rituals in our talking. So who's been at a social function where the first thing people ask you is, what do you do? Yeah. I would suggest you probably have a elevator pitch that you give back to them, right? Oh, I do this, this, and this, right? Because it's a practice kind of ritual offer and exchange. Is that communication?
No,
I think it really adds. Sorry,
I don't see it as communication. I see that as an opportunity to try and get more information, to try and ask more open-ended questions. That's what I see it as.
Yeah. Well, mate, that's a beautiful next step. But is that your experience?
Yeah, that's been my experience.
So yeah, well, beautiful communicating. So that might be hard to read, but it's never make a permanent decision based on a temporary storm. I just throw that in because I just love that shot. I took it myself. Anyway, has anyone seen The Nail? There we go. Has anyone seen The Nail clip? All right, let's check it out. Can you hear that? Typical. Can you hear that now?
And sometimes it feels like it's just, there's all this pressure, And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me and I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop.
Yeah. Well, you do have a nail in your head.
It is not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I'll bet if we got that out of there...
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing...
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail
See, you're
out.
not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like there's this achy, I don't know what it is. And I'm not sleeping very well at all. And all my sweaters are snagged. I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It is. Thank you. Ow!
Oh, come on. If you would just...
Don't.
Try to see things my way.
So, oops. So the idea, it's not about the nail. Anyway, yeah. The idea is communication is an exchange of meaning. And in that situation, clearly, somebody isn't getting the meaning of the communication, right? They want to fix things, and the other person wants to have a safe environment to release things or share things, right? So there's a mismatch. Now that one's a great one, because at the time, there's a constant kind of meme about male and female miscommunication and so on, and that sort of benefits from that. But essentially what it says is we're not listening properly, right? And now let's talk about big talk. What is big talk, right? And I would like to acknowledge and credit the founder of Big Talk, right, Kalina Silverman. And she created a movement out of this TED Talk, right, which was Big Talk. And her movement was amazing. And I'm going to show her a movie, a video clip of her in a set. But the idea is small talk is polite conversation. It's ritualistic. It's kind of superficial. I call it horizontal conversation, right? You go across things. And there may be multiple subjects or multiple connection. And indeed, Ash, we find stuff out about people, right? But big talk is a more meaningful approach to the conversation, one that goes, I call it vertical conversation. So we actually chunk down to find more detail. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you get to know someone, you get to know when we chunk down, what do we end up finding out if we go deep enough? I think we're creating a connection that will actually involve people to share their vulnerabilities, right? So initially, there are certain conditions that must be met: rapport, trust, safety, right? And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. But when you chunk down deep enough, somebody will come to a issue or a misunderstanding or a problem. That's where they hide, down deep. So up top, you're going to get the ritual response. To go and get more of an authentic vulnerability, you probably need to go down. Fair enough?
Yeah.
But small talk's not dead, right? Research tells us that talking to people is better than not talking to people. So, and there are times when revealing too much is inappropriate. Has anyone ever been sat next to the bloke who overshares? Yeah. Right. There are times where certain circumstances, those rituals are really useful and they're about creating safety for everyone. So even though somebody might be offering something that's deeper, in certain circumstance, that isn't safe for either the sharer or the listener, right? So many small talk conversations are about hiding. That can be problematic, but sometimes small talk is just about getting on with life, right? I'm going to say hello. I'm going to go through the polite connection. It's nice to connect, but we don't really have time to explore it's not a safe environment to do that. So small talk's not dead just because we found big talk, but it's now really important that we acknowledge that there are two types of connection, and that we should be getting competent in both. Now, this is the founder of Small Talk.
Hi, I'm Kalina, and this is the beginning of an experiment called Big Talk. I wanted to be able to go out, meet new people, and instead of just make small talk, actually have deeper, meaningful conversations with them. Kalina.
Get your hand on TV.
Yeah, come on.
What do I want to do before I die? Oh man, jeez.
That's a deep question.
Oh, or what do I want to do when I grow up?
You mean job-wise?
That's a hard one.
Oh, that's a tough one.
Is it just one thing?
Well,
I want to learn how to scuba dive.
Travel the Appalachian Trail.
Go to the priest and make a confession.
I'd like to be a herpetologist. Somebody who studies reptiles and amphibians.
see my kids graduate from college.
Make every moment count.
Live without any alcohol and drugs and problems, big problems like that, and just be happy day by day.
Being able to reconcile with my father and say I love you to him.
I want to have a wife and kids. I wrote like an essay on it when I was in 5th grade, and I remember all my friends made fun of me because everyone was like, I want to be a sports star or a movie star, but just no wife and kids.
I'll be happy because I already lived, before I lived very bad. I was homeless for 13 years.
Maybe call a lot of my friends.
I'd probably text all my friends.
I would take a road trip to go see someone today. I can't say. I would tell them that I love them. Yeah.
Do they know you love them?
I think so.
What would I want to do today if I was to die tomorrow, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow? Be with my family.
If I knew I was going to die tomorrow, I'd get on the airplane to go be with my son. See, now I'm going to cry. It's literally, I'll say the most significant relationship that I have. Being 18 and having a baby.
If I were dying, I'd love to have Charlie on my bed. Ray was dying. He had this little fluffy dog that cuddled right next to him and would not. Oh, that's fascinating. There's a dog bark. Do you love that or what?
Be in denial, thinking it's gonna happen, and I can't die.
My mom said that the day before she died that if she were to die tomorrow, she would have lived the fullest life ever, and then she died unexpectedly the next day. So this is a very personal question. So family has always been of utmost importance to me.
Then when I was about 50, I guess 50, I fell in love with a woman.
Yeah, my dad's black from the South. His father was murdered by the KKK when he was 5.
Like, I have 2 children that are 19 and 20 now. About, it just seems like just yesterday, like when they were little, you know. The time goes by so fast. I don't even feel like I'm really any much older, you know, than when they were kids. And
I love my life so much right now. I used to not like at all. I used to hate my life. There was this girl that I really liked, and I went up to her and basically told her that I liked her. And she was like, "Oh, you're kidding, right?" And then I was like, "Oh, yeah."
I'm really sinner.
Why do you think you're a sinner?
I am a human being.
I could at one point say I hated my father. If I had died without reconciling with my father, I think like I would definitely would not be able to sleep at night. And I think being able to do that just has brought me a lot of freedom.
Family is everything. But everything else is meaningless.
People's relatives are their wealth. This is their true wealth. If you have a relative, you have to treasure them.
We have to respect the person in the world. They have walked in that they are who they are.
Now, when you get who you are, you have the confidence and the power to do anything that you want.
I want y'all to understand this out there in TV world. You have to be 100% with yourself no matter what you do.
Walk by a stranger and never talk to them.
Yes.
The fact that you're coming and talking is nice. It's like, it's connection and communication.
Thanks so much.
Of course.
So popular.
Is it?
She wants to be my manager when I get famous.
This is part of what I think I'm crying now.
And last thing, what got you guys up at sunrise for this hike?
I asked him out on a date.
This was good. And I like doing this. This was good.
If I hadn't approached these people, I probably wouldn't have ever met them. And by choosing to make big talk instead of small talk, I was able to learn what people really care about and like.
What music should we come up with?
Oh, my favorite music is the 80s. That's my favorite.
I say we're holding
Almost all of the 80s
I say
music
classical.
is
We'll be
very
sitting
good.
here right now. I see some classical music playing
Rock.
in the background while you sit here
80s
holding
rock.
this little interview.
So I love that. And I must admit, it even triggered me watching that. I've watched it several times.
Me too.
Just that, yeah. Oh, good. I love being triggered, right, in some ways, right. And I hope you're okay. But, they're just the moments of, I just remember things that are precious to me. And that's why I get so excited about Big Talk and the power of communication. Now, we're going to go into some technical stuff, but I just wanted you to have a taste of that emotion up front, right? Because I'm sure you guys have that relationship with some people that you're working with today, right? But my personal goal is to make this my everyday, that I get to talk, in some ways when opportunities arise in that fashion that brings up those moments to me, and what I love is all of those people had that look of surprised delight on their face. Did you see that? It's so cool, right? And all it takes is a caring listener who is brave enough to have a conversation that's not your everyday. So let's get into some of the hows, right? And I won't, drive you crazy with boring stuff, as much as I love that. But I think the building block of these conversations is a level of trust, because trust is a safe space. But you don't get to trust straight away. You can't walk up and say, hey, would you trust me? But you can do things that allow you to establish a very trust in a very quick way. So my formula for trust is respect, which is the entry level element between two people. Human to human contact requires respect. That's just my minimum virtuous sort of view of the world, right? So if you respect someone, you are actually acknowledging them as human and having rights, and that you are a peer in this circumstance. You're not trying to control, coerce, or oppress. Does that make sense? But respect alone is not enough, because we have to show some level of consistency. We have to walk our talk in this. So we need to reveal our authentic self, respectfully offer that to the person, and then consistently do that over time. Now, if in a conversation, that may be how we act, in a shorter time frame, right? But we are polite and we don't change. We don't surprise people, right? We offer that. And then, you can see how respect might be about personal space. It might be how we talk. It may be about, letting people choose, like giving them, asking them permission to for you to talk to them, so those things. And that creates a space that leads to trust. Once we get to trust, then we protect that trust through and I've got the 7 elements of trust here from Brené Brown. We protect that by using things like boundaries. We stay in the game reliably. We hold ourselves accountable. We apologize when we've crossed someone's boundaries or broken someone's understanding of the agreement of safe space. We act with integrity. That's something that is both energetically true and it's also superficially true, right? When we do what we say, but we also feel what we say. Does that make sense? Like it's both, an intrinsic and extrinsic element. And then, of course, non-judgment. Now, my premise is humans aren't able to be non-judgmental. What we can do is we can suspend judgment and only use it where it's going to serve. So we can practice that skill. And I'm going to get into a mindset that helps that in a sec, right, in another screen. And then, of course, generosity, right? The beautiful generosity of people's time and sharing and stuff that we had in that video clip. It's just like so powerful an experience, an emotional experience, right? And generosity is a force. It's a power. So that's just briefly my view of trust as the building block for building big talk elements. Now, to get into that trust space, we're going to ask a lot of people who have been betrayed or have been let down or have had misunderstandings about communication. So this is I use a mindset management tool, which I call, it's a mnemonic, which I call Grace, right? So well done, Grace. You feature in this presentation in many ways, right? And of course, Grace, as we know, is full of gratitude, has respect, attention, has the superpower of curiosity, right? And is dripping with empathy. Now, the reason I use this mnemonic, it's mnemonic, isn't it? Yeah. Mnemonic is because it gets my head right to invite a safe and trust-filled interaction with someone in a big sense. Now, I don't need this level of mindset if I'm just talking about the weather in a small talk session. You're on the bus. Hi. Oh, I see you're reading that. Have you read that before? Do you like that book? Small talk. Go back to ignoring and But if I'm going to sit there and go, wow, you're reading that book, self-help book. How is that impacting on your life? Have you needed help? Those kind of questions are a different direction. And you need the mindset to manage how carefully we're going to construct a safe space for that conversation to go. That's how I feel. So I'm throwing this out there. What are you getting from that? Is something like Grace, do you do that already in some way? So beautiful. I'm going to assume you do because I know this group will have had, really powerful, safe conversations with people. This is what I fall back. And having practiced this, particularly the gratitude, if I can underpin everything with gratitude, I'm grateful for being there. What it does, it takes the context out of it. Now, if you want to suspend judgment, you are going to need gratitude and curiosity. Because gratitude removes the sense of assessment, discernment away from the judgment. So I'm looking at someone and I go, wow, that guy who was homeless in that video with his tats on his face and, the sign saying I'm hungry. Would you have walked up to him expecting, and this is just about, there's no judgment here. It's about the biases we possess. Would you have expected him to be so interesting and articulate and so kind of demure in his responses, right? He was cool, right? And, we have ingrained biases, 144 biases. That's heuristics. That's the law of managing the life with, taking shortcuts, habituation, right? What we want to do here is to suspend our personal biases. And you do that by being grateful. Because when you're grateful for the opportunity to connect, gratitude is that kryptonite to bias. It's like it smooths the way through. And curiosity is the way we hold judgment in check, because when you are curious about something, you are suspending the final decision. Does that make sense? So these things really set us up for a very open, vulnerable conversation where we give all sorts of people, regardless of our biases or our understandings or our knowledge already, we give them a chance to present their vulnerable self to us, and we learn. We really learn about them. Cool. Now, what kind of questions are big questions? I'm sure you've got a few in, but these are taken from the Big Talk website, right? So the idea is, and I love this because questions around this are also questions about purpose. They're questions about values. They're questions, values are things that are important to us. So if you ask a question, a values-based question like is, what do you really like to do all of the time? Or what's the thing you most like to do in the world? What has been in the last 6 months, what has been the most fun you've had? Those questions elicit values, and values are a deeper understanding of people. You can get into some really cool stuff, right? Then when we get purpose questions, so what makes you happy? What makes you angry? What do you think of this? What would you like to leave as a legacy? The famous armchair questions. Anyone encountered that? The time, think of it, go forward in your timeline to a time where you're on a porch in a really beautiful garden and you're in a rocking chair and the chair is gently rocking and you're thinking about your life that you have lived as you come to the end of it. What are you most proud of? Those exercises, so powerful.
Your relationships, your experiences, and I guess your accomplishments. I like to say the sort of three things that you get in life that are travel, ambition, and family.
Yeah.
Travel means any kind of discovery, and family means any kind of relationship, and ambition, we know what that means. Yeah. So I get kind of what way we order that, and I'd like to think.
I would ask, I'm driven to ask Warren. You talk about ambition, and you ask me and thank you for assuming I know what it means. But I want to ask you, what will you be your measure of ambition? Like that. There's an opportunity when I'm talking big. I want to mine down on something so crucial as that. So yeah, fantastic questions.
I think it's sort of personal to everyone. What like Warren Buffett likes to call it an internal scorecard of. And yeah, it's what does it mean to me? It means feeling like I've done something good to make a positive impact on the world and sort of used my potential in some way. I don't feel like I need to overdo it at the expense of the other two.
That's amazing. And for the benefit, I'll talk to the crew aside, saying what I'm going to do is pick up on keywords in terms of big talk and then ask about them. So I said, okay, what's good and what's positive? You said that you want to be measured by what's good and what's positive that you've done in the world. What would you consider good?
Well, something that has helped some problem in the world, like even the jobs we do every day, contributing to some critical systems like medical systems, for example, or building up a link made with David to sort of give people an outlet.
Beautiful.
I don't think I don't think I could solve all the world's problems or that I need to, but solving some of them is enough for me.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, mate. That is wonderful. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have that little experience, little example, right, of big talk. Was there a sense of going down to that? Like of getting, deeper?
Yeah, I guess when you asked what do you mean by
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing, mate. So, and the questions on the screen, right? Like things like, what do you fear? They're really getting there. Like that's a question you would ask with some degree of rapport and understanding that you really do need a safe space for that. But it's such a powerful question. Can you sharing that or asking that and then sharing and hearing the answer and then maybe sharing your own, right, as an example is going to develop a relationship as well as just a conversation. How do you show your love? I love that. That's a beauty too. So this is something I've really explored interestingly, right? And it's a way of me understanding why communication is more than just listening and talking, right? And I believe that people connect across a gap, which is essentially the way nature works, right? It's like, has anyone been at the zoo and seen the meerkat? I would rate them the cutest animals of all, right? Except maybe the marble panda fox, Canadian marble panda fox or whatever it is, right? But the meerkats are extraordinary. So they have, they're social. There are people playing. There are meerkat kids in the background playing. There are meerkat mothers getting on with food. There are meerkats who are on guard, right? And when something startles or threatens this group, the guards will respond. The group will, immediately stop and move, right? And I love that. It's almost like a real time, like it's like happens before these things happen. Kids are hidden in burrows and stuff before people even get a chance to interfere with them. And I love that. I think nature operates at both a obvious visible level and an energetic level. And we see this over and over again in elements. So think of, I've got the picture up there of the dendrites, right? Synaptic gap, right? Where chemical and electrical impulses cross over. That is exchanging meaning through the synaptic gap. So two ends, and what I call miracle happens and meaning is exchanged. The same with the DNA. Two strands of DNA, they don't cement together. They are held together by the transfer of meaning across a gap through hydrogen bonds. Right, again, a chemical electrical response. And when you think about it, communication is the same, right, in a conversation. Ooh, I'll come back to that. Oh, I'm out of order. Here's my view of what happens in communication, right? So don't freak out. You don't need to read it or anything. It's just communication is a diegetic listening process, right? A dyadic. It should be a Y, not an I. Anyway, it is an exchange of meaning. Communication isn't a conversation. It is an exchange of meaning. The importance of communication is when you give out a message, you get a response. The nature of that response is the meaning of the communication. If you get something different, it's not the problem with the person receiving, it's the problem with the person transmitting. Right, so understanding that expressive transmission, receptive transmission, and interpersonal exchange is the process we're talking about. Now, this is important. Why? Well, it's just about linking everything back to the concept of we are going to have a deeper conversation. Do you need this level of rapport, of common ground, of intention, values, equity? Do you need that in small talk? Any thoughts? No. Okay, good. You got a chat there. No. So, yeah, we don't really need that, right? Because we are governed by some ritual exchange. We understand the meaning of things already. We don't need to explore the meaning. It's already on the table, right? So when I ask about the weather, what I'm really saying is, how are you going? Are you coping with life? And then they go, yeah, the weather's been rough lately. That means, hey, life's full of ups and downs, right? But, I'm doing all right. And then you go, oh, well, good. I hope you get to the game on Saturday. And that means, oh, I'm glad you're coping okay. I don't really have time to explore that, so I hope you do well. And they go, yeah, I might see you there. Catch you later, right? Now, that's a fine, a perfectly acceptable exchange. But all of those elements of meaning were all underpinned already. Nothing new was gained. Nothing more was explored. And that's okay, right? Those two people might have just gone through it. What we're talking about with Big Talk, though, is unlocking more meaning, more exchange, getting to more vulnerability. And then knowing more about people is value. It's gold. It's a currency, right? That is a currency of support, of service, of connection. And humans, the greatest currency for humans is connection. That's my view.
Sorry to interrupt you, John. As you've been going through the presentation, there's one thing that really stood out for me as you were talking, and it's vulnerability. I always felt as a man, particularly for us guys, being vulnerable is something that we don't do. Now,
the counselling contract.
Yeah, but I've seen over the years as I've gotten to know who I am as a man and where I place my value, that there's something actually really wonderful about being vulnerable, because it gives the ability to crack open your heart. So depending on who it is that's in front of you. And this conversation is really great because it's really sitting really well with all of my values and who I am as a person, and my real need to have deeper conversations. So rather than having the small conversations, I think that the small conversations are important to a point from my experience, but I get a lot more value from the deeper connection, being vulnerable. And when you're being vulnerable, something opens up and there's a greater exchange. And as you mentioned, it gets deeper. And that's something that I really value. I just wanted to chuck that out there.
Mate, I love that. It's like literally you are the case study, the banner child for this sort of on presentation. Can I ask, does anyone mind if I just take a moment to digress down something that Ash has brought up? Right, it's just like I'll just divert slightly, because I just like that. To me is absolutely such an important element of counsellors, clinicians, right? The clinical model and the medicalized model of mental health, right, insists almost, unconsciously, they train the members of that clinical, support platform, right, and all others. Like we're talking about alternative therapists, we're talking about psychotherapists, we're talking about counsellors, right? They are trained to a degree to disassociate from the exchange of emotional meaning. Would that be fair? Yeah. And what I'm proposing for myself is I learn to manage the power of that emotional exchange, not avoid it. I learn to build and use it as an essential, powerful part of the exchange. We know from research that successful therapy is often hinged far more on the connection with the therapist than it is on the modality the therapist uses, right? Yeah. So, and even in an everyday way, if I connect with people in my life just as a peer support person or just as a punter walking down the street, if I am disassociated, what kind of trust is in disassociating. I am presupposing that that person is broken, that person is contagious, that person needs quarantine, whatever it is. Does that make sense? I don't want that. I want to get to a person so that when I'm holding them in support, I want to be holding them, not making some sort of mask, sort of avatar version of support. I'm not sending a robot or an AI out to hold your hand. I'm going to be doing it myself.
Yeah, and I think too, it's a feeling thing too. People can feel feel it in the exchange. When you were talking last slide about the DNA and all that kind of thing, I just need to go, yes, absolutely. I feel that's there's an exchange that happens, and it's conscious. You feel, sometimes you have to feel your way through things.
And it's an autonomic system exchange. It happens at multi-levels, right?
Yeah.
It's not just up here, it's your gut, it's your vagus system, right? So all the adaptive neural networks we possess are involved in that connection with another human being. You want to go to brain, you've got a whole bunch of brain factors that people don't even understand, the processing of motor neurons, the element of, there's a section in our brain that recognizes and discriminates against types of faces, right? That isn't even understood, right? It's called so like, I think it's all in or don't bother, right? But that means we have to be good at this, and we have to practice this, because you're not just practicing to invite someone else to have an experience. You're practicing to enforce and to become a master of communication yourself. How many conversations do you know it will take before you achieve mastery of managing your own emotions with intention and still be available vulnerably to others to accept and to hold space for theirs? Because the beauty of me, of you guys inviting me to talk to you, is I invite you to start to work on your lifelong gaining of mastery in this ability to connect to human beings. Because when we reach that level, there isn't all of this other area of conflict and discrimination and bias is actually blown away, because we connect on that heart, that deep understanding level. So, we can change the world by conversations, by big talk. And of course, the idea of contracting this, right, is much more about my desire to be in this game intentionally, right? So I love how she walked up and said, as an experiment, said, "Oh, do you mind if I talk, like here, I'm going to ask you some questions," right? And in some ways that can mirror the way we conduct ourselves in every day. Certainly in a sort of counseling or peer support engagement, there's an introduction, and that introduction involves acknowledgement and permission, right? And then we go into a staged present, and that stage is insight. The first thing we want to know is more. So that's about listening, inviting and listening and encouraging. And then there's a stage of developing options, which is looking at the insight and working out, oh, wow, have you seen yourself, how good you are, or what strengths you want to develop, or is there an opportunity? And then, of course, then there's the ability to take action, develop a plan and work, and we'll start to walk those options, right? And that leads to transformation, and then that leads to some level of completion or moving on, right? So that is the pathway of this group, right? But it starts with big talk. It starts with the capacity to engage in a dyadic construct, right? Which means we're both agreeing. It's like if you look at hypnosis is a contract between the hypnotist and the person being hypnotized. And then what it is saying, for a moment, this reality is the one I accept. So the hypnotist offers a new reality, and the person being hypnotized accepts it. And that contract is binding. It's not fake, right? The brain has the power to accept that reality for a period of time. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about to be in a relational exchange of meaning we need to agree, the contract, that there is safety, that there is equity, that there is empathy, right? Those elements that we put up, right? And in fact, I'll see if I can get there. Hang on. That's what the elements of it. Permission, recognition and acceptance, curiosity, safety, transparency, connection, rapport, intention. Those things are the contract that we create. And that seems complicated, but you guys do it naturally, right? This is stuff you already know. You know, I'm just putting a orange color to it because I love orange. So, I want to show you this because I love this.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
And the reason, I've got to get out of that. So the reason I brought that up is because I think that's a message we need to share. Yeah. Mindfulness, the definition of mindfulness is the ability to experience life in the moment, present, because that's the only place we get to experience life, right? The past is an echo and the future is a plan, right? And because we're experiencing life, we regulate just how much that has an impact on us. So when we were talking about, Ash, when you brought up that sense of, I want to be vulnerable, you can bravely, boldly go to that space of vulnerability when you are mindfully present and powerfully equipped. And that takes practice, right? And I would invest in the practice of gratitude. I would invest in the practice of meditation. I would invest in the practice of curiosity. in the Rogerian world, right, which is person-centric therapy, I'm sorry to sort of use tags, but they call it, he calls it congruency, empathy, and unconditional positive regard, UPR. Now, I think you don't get to UPR without these kind of practices because we're humans. I love that bit in the video where the bloke goes, I'm a sinner. And he goes, why are you a sinner? And she goes, because I'm human, right? Absolutely, right? And this is an opportunity to take being a willing participant in the exchange. You're intentional, you're offering leadership, and leadership is so needed in this space. So I'm aware I've pushed you guys in time-wise, so I just want to take up 1 second. Is that all right, Grace? I hope, guys, please let me know if you're still seeing that. Yeah. I would offer my self-care wheel. I believe a bit of music, whatever it is, your daily routine, eating well, sleeping well, taking your meds, meditating. Do these things every day to enhance your performance as a human. What I would then say is, as a counselor or a therapist or a peer support person, as well as a human who deals with the ups, then is I want you to look at the level 2. When I call it taking a self-care, knife to a gunfight. If you're not ready for the extra work, right, you're going to get shot. So when life kicks you in the proverbials, you need to have a plan to throw extra resource at it. And I would think of I would go back to my values. What really makes me happy? Because do some of that. And it could be anything, getting away for a weekend, connecting with a favorite person, spending some time alone, having a beautiful dinner, going to a concert, whatever it is, right? Find that extra powerful, nurturing thing and put that on the list. Prepare for the worst, right? Yeah, sorry, great. So, yeah, I'll finish up in 2 minutes, right? But I just wanted to go to the self-care because, of course, level 3, everything about crisis is you are not alone. So in preparation for crises, right, and they do happen to all of us because we're human, you work on yourself, developing yourself and your capacity to respond through mindfulness and through all the skills that we're practicing. And then you put a team on the plan that you can count on when you need. That team could be medical, it could be clinical, it could be peer, it could be friends, family. It could be just someone at midnight when you are absolutely in the dark moment that you can call and they will hold space for you. Does that make sense? So I really want you guys now, because we've had some big talk, so just to think about what you're going to do to be kind to yourself and others. This is acknowledging Kristen Neff, who is the leader in the concept of self-compassion. All right. So self-kindness, recognizing our common humanity. This is all beautiful, being kind and looking after yourself. So that's it, guys. I'll move on now. I apologize for going over time. They're the organisations that I spend some time with. I hope you have a list like that yourself, because I'm sure you are all making a difference for the world. So that's enough for me. I'll stop sharing. Thank you so much for being such a cool group to talk to and for inviting me in to do it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Color. That was really
so much, John.
Thank you. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
Well, you're more welcome. And Warren, I'm going to say a word of prayer for you and family of the people who are all missing your friend.
Thank you, John. Yeah, he was really someone I learned a lot from. You really felt like you could talk to him. Everyone did.
Sounds like he has a wonderful legacy, mate.
Yeah.
A life well lived.
Learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
Good on you.
thank you so much for taking the time and effort to do that, John, and really breaking it down. And you seem like you're a really good listener as well.
Thank you. I hope it was all right. Like I haven't delivered that speech before, that presentation before, but it's not a speech. But I hope it was all right. And I love your work, guys.
Yeah. No, thank you, John.
Thanks, Grace.
No, yeah, and I reckon I challenge all of us this week maybe to engage in some big talk, and then we can come together as a team in our community and have a chat about it and break it down and see what works for us and how we feel or what we learned from it, because I feel like we learned a lot today. And I'm excited to go try it out, and I'm sure you guys are very excited as well. So yeah, thank you so much, John. I feel like that was very, very insightful. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming and joining. Your time is valuable, and it's so glad to see you all virtually, hopefully one day in person. But yeah.
Yeah.
Love your
Hope
work,
to see all
guys.
you Melbourne dudes at some stage.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Yeah,
John.
good on you
Thanks
guys.
for
See you
organising,
later.
Grace.
That's okay. Beautiful evening,
Thank
everyone.
you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Take care. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.